Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10 Minute Torah. Today is the final day of the study of Chayei Sarah. I hope you've enjoyed what we talked about thus far. And today, rather than focusing on one particular topic or thought, I'd like to tie up some loose ends. At the end of chapter 24, the servant of Avraham is returning back, and he's bringing Rivkah with him, the bride of the Mashiach, if you will. This is a very daring young woman, full of adventure, willing to embrace the unknown. She has the heart of Avraham and of Sarah, leaving all that is familiar to her to go to that which is totally unknown to her, only what she has heard about, she's read about in the title deed that the servant of Avraham, we think it's Eliezer, has presented. And she's been told about her husband, but she's never met him. Sound familiar? Sound like the bride of Messiah in our day? She is becoming a Hebrew, one who has crossed over, something that you and I are in the process of doing pretty much as well. What we find is that Yitzchak, Isaac, is praying in the field. The rabbinical writers suggest that he is praying for his bride, longing for her to come to him. And he is found in a very particular place, Be'er Lahai Roy, the well of the living one who sees, is a decent translation from what I read. And so this is the place where Hagar and Yishma'el, overall in chapter 21, they have finally been pushed out from the house of Avraham at Sarah's demand. And they come into a calamitous situation where Yishma'el and her are dying of thirst. And she cries out in the bitterness of her soul at seeing her son die. A messenger shows her a well of water. She recuperates with the boy. They get turned around physically, and there is a prophecy that is given to her that she is to see Yishma'el grow up, be a strong man. He's got a significant role to play. The first time that they had gotten sent out is in this same location, Be'er Lahai Roy. The second time, it seems to be in a very close vicinity of the same, as it says that Yishma'el dwells in the wilderness of Paran. If you look on a map, the wilderness of Paran and Kadesh Barnea, or it's a very close vicinity to Be'er Lahai Roy, all of that is grouped together. So it is in the same region that we find now Yitzchak praying and interceding. He embraces Rivkah, and it says that he takes her not into his tent, but into his mother Sarah's tent. So for whatever reason, he has moved his mother's tent from Hebron, which is somewhat to the north, and has brought it down to this location where he is now dwelling. And there he has pitched it. Sarah's tent is a type and shadow of the abode of the Shekinah. So he takes the bride of Messiah into the abode of the Shekinah, and there the bride of Messiah and the Messiah initiate their marriage. What a beautiful picture of the coming kingdom, where Yeshua the bridegroom brings you and I, the bride, to Israel, the abode of the Shekinah, the tent of Sarah. And there we built our home together. There we began our marriage together in a greater realm of reality. Now again, this is not physical as you and I would imagine a marriage situation. This is a great revelation of the spiritual bliss and wonderment, the overwhelming splendor of being together with the bridegroom. So it's, to me, just an incredible picture that is taking place here. Now, in chapter 25, we come to the significant event at the end of this Torah portion that Avraham is getting ready to die. Before he does so, this old man marries again, marries a woman, Keturah. Now, some rabbinical scholars say this is Hagar by a different name. There's a clue that suggests that that's not true. In verse number 6, it mentions the sons of the concubines, plural. There are only 2 concubines. If Hagar was Keturah and Keturah was Hagar, there would only be 1 concubine. But here concubines is plural. So there has to be at least 2, and we only know of 2, Hagar and Keturah. I don't believe that they're the same person. Keturah, nevertheless, bears him 6 sons. Significantly, one of them is known as Midian. We're going to see Midian and the Midianites play some very significant roles just a little later on to some future generations. There's a little brief mention of them, I think, in the life of Joseph. We'll see that play out. But hold on to the idea of the Midianites. They've got something to say and a role to play in future generations. We'll get to them. So Avraham has now 8 sons, the 6 sons of Keturah, Yitzchak, and Yishma'el. Only one can be the carrier of the seed and the promise of inheriting the land. That very plainly is stated to be Yitzchak. The world is still striving over who among the sons of Abraham is the heir to the land. Yishma'el and his descendants are currently laying claim to the land of inheritance. Wars are being fought, blood's being shed, rockets are being launched, military actions are taking place, the UN has got involved. There's a whole lot of world disorder going on because of this situation in Abraham's home. It hasn't gone away. However, there is hope. Avraham, it says in verse number 5, gave all that he had to Yitzchak. He blessed the other sons and he sent them away. He did not want anyone close by to compete with Yitzchak for the inheritance. Now, he lived to be 175 years of age, and then he was to breathe his last. He died in a good old age, aged and satisfied, and was gathered to his people, verse number 8 says. Then it says in verse 9 that his sons Yitzchak and Yishma'el buried him in the cave in Machpelah, which is in Mamre. That's Hebron. Again, that's somewhat to the north. But they made that journey and they took their father there and buried him with his wife Sarah. Here's where it's interesting. The last thing we read is that Yitzchak dwelt at Beer Lahai Roi. He's living close to Yishma'el. I'd always imagined that these 2 estranged brothers remained estranged and that they lived a great distance apart. Evidently, Yitzchak chose to be a healer. Now, it was his mother, Sarah, that raised such a ruckus about Hagar and Ishmael being there, and rightly so, that caused them to be moved out. But now that dad is gone, and now that mom is gone, Yitzchak seems to be willing to dwell and work close to and work together with his brother Yishma'el. Doesn't mean that Ishmael changed. Doesn't mean that he become a righteous person. But it means to me that Yitzchak at least placed himself in close enough proximity to his estranged brother that maybe they could work things out. That he could choose to be the healer. Sometimes it takes most of a generation to work some things out. But it also shows me a foundation for why he was willing to put up with Esau and all of the shenanigans and issues of Esau. This wild man, like his uncle Ishmael, Yitzchak had already seen one son pushed out. Maybe he didn't want to push out Esau either. We'll talk more about that next week. Until then, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining me.